well, let me read it from you. This is a quote from one of Scott Galloway's talks. He says, "The worst advice you will ever hear is follow your passion. What utter bullshit. If anybody tells you to follow your passion, they're probably already rich and they probably made their millions or billions in iron ore smelting." He says that instead you should find something that you're good at and then spend the thousands of hours that are necessary to grind through it and become great at it. And by becoming great at it, the self-worth that you take from it will make you passionate about it. And then you can find a way to make money about it. So that may sound like a stark contrast to what we've been talking about on this show, Murray. So what we're going to discuss tonight in the first half of the episode, or probably even more, is follow your passion versus find something that you're good at, become great at it, and you will become passionate about it and focus on that. So, Murray, what are your thoughts? Does this sound contradictory to you, or can these two things exist together?
Yeah, I think they can exist together. Now, I have some mixed emotions on this, so I take this with a grain of salt. And just so the listeners know where I'm coming from, before we even talked about the topic of tonight's episode, I had recently watched the Simon Sinek video, and he had mentioned something similar where he was thinking about what are his passions. He likes art, things like that. And so he's like, does that mean he needs to be an artist? And it doesn't. What he did, and the reason I bring this up specifically is because I did the exact same thing when I started looking at what do I want to do as an entrepreneur is, I love music. I like poetry, like I wrote a book. So there's an artistic aspect to what my passion is. Now, does that mean I need to do either of those? Not necessarily. I'm still extremely passionate about it, but there's a root to what's going on there. And I took that, I looked at that, and I compared it to my day job. And in my day job, I'm developing medical equipment. So across all those spectrums, I realized what I was doing was I was being creative. So I had an element that in each one of those, I was going in, I got to be some type of artist, even though it looked slightly different. I was being creative, and I was going through, and that's what I was actually passionate about. And I got to use it in a bunch of different forums. So when I did that, I was like, okay, I paired that creativeness with what kind of lifestyle model am I trying to set up with my own business? And it was the freedom to be able to travel, work from anywhere, whatever that looks like, get out of Michigan in the winter and go work down south for a couple of months.
Yeah, of course.
I'll be honest. That was actually a big driver, is if I could get away from, I love Michigan in the summer, but man, in the winter, it drives me crazy. So I looked at those two and pieced it together. And that's how I came up with this software idea of I still get to be creative. I get to choose the industries I'm passionate about, and it gives me that freedom to travel. So now, does that mean I still don't want to be a musician? I'm only focused on that? Absolutely not. I still love music, and there's something to be said. If that's your passion and you're going into that, be all in, but just be very conscious of what you're doing and what you're choosing. And there's nothing wrong with that. And now it might be a little more of an uphill battle. But again, if that's what you're doing, that's fine. But just make sure you think it through. So that's why I say take it with a grain of salt, because I know you're going to touch on this too, based on what you watch. But there's something to be said about there being able to break in a little bit easier into some industries that are already out there. It's less of an uphill battle to be able to support yourself financially with what you call passion, versus going all in where it's harder to break in, but it's the only thing you want to do. And that's fine. Yeah. So there's multiple different paths here.
Yeah. Well, that's well said. Let's take a look at it from this point of view. Usually we talk about on the podcast, the whole point of us doing this podcast is we're two normal guys that have started a side hustle with the idea, if we work really hard at it, and because it's something we're passionate about, this could become a career, and we can escape the rat race. We can escape, all the things that we hate about corporate America, and we can do our own thing and be our own bosses. As part of that, this podcast has turned into a podcast where we listen to other people's stories, what they've been through. Everyone's got a different story. Everyone's got different advice. So this podcast is not just about, entrepreneurs. In fact, we really don't talk about entrepreneurism much at all. More that as much as we do the story of the people behind it, because I'm not an expert. You're not an expert. This podcast follows us as we go through the process. And this is part of the process, I think, because I was totally, when I started this in the Gary V camp, where it is do what you love, find a way to make money doing that, and that will give you long-term fulfillment and happiness. On the other side of the spectrum, now I'm looking at this where it says, that's bullshit. Don't follow your passion. You're not going to necessarily make money that way. And the problem is when what is my passion? I love ham radio. Okay. If I truly followed my passion, I would be opening a ham radio store. The problem is when you start to do that and you start to run into all the problems that there are, and you start to run into the injustice and everything else that exists in starting a business, and you start to put in the hard work and the challenges come about, you start to think to yourself, as Scott Galloway puts it in his video, this is really hard. Maybe I'm not so passionate about this as I thought. And that shouldn't be the way that you determine what you're passionate about or not. So this idea really resonates with me of find something that you're really good at, put in a ton of work into it, become great at it. And the self-fulfillment that you get from being great at that will make you passionate about it. And as I think about that, that is absolutely true with me. And I think it is, you're explaining with you yourself. I started my business of training law enforcement officers. When I was a kid, I did not grow up saying, boy, I would love to start a company where I can teach Fourth Amendment search and seizure to police officers and then also teach prosecutors how to do jury trials. And of course, I didn't say that, but that's something that I've become extremely good at in my career. It's something that I take meaning from. And just like he says in his video, because I do it well and I get a lot of good feedback, it's created even more meaning to me. So I think there's something to be said about that theory, but I don't necessarily think it contradicts do what you're passionate about, because I feel like I am doing what I'm passionate about. It's not just, find something that you absolutely love to do and go make money, because that may not work.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I also think you get into this area of the grass is always greener, in the sense that, maybe I had gotten to go do the music thing and be in bands and all that. And then I'd be looking back going, well, maybe I'm not quite as financially stable, or, because I was on the road so much, I had never settled down and had a family. Or, now that I have those things, I keep looking back on it and saying, everyone warned me not to turn, music into my day job or whatever was going to support me in life, because when those hard times come, things are going to go south. You're going to start blaming music for that, and then you're going to hate it. And the number one thing I can never do in my life is hate music. I was like, that is what gets me through the tough times. And I could celebrate with it in the good times. So it's just always there for me. So I was like, I could never not have music in my life. So that kind of scared me a little bit. And there were other things that I wanted to do. So I was like, well, I can always have the music, the bands as like a side hustle, or just, a hobby, a major hobby, a big project, and also do something else to support me financially, or, whatever I needed to do to just take those next steps in life. And so I don't have the answers. I'm going to tell you right now, like this is more of just a discussion. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Make sure to put it in the comments. This is of great debate among everyone, but I always am just, well, if I had that, I'd probably think this, and if I had this, so back to the grass is always greener. But I think there's truths to both sides, and you just have to find the best balance that works for your life.
Yeah. So good point. So after you click the subscribe button down below, because if you notice, we only got 26 subscribers. We're trying to get 1,000. We're not making any money, obviously. So help us get to 1,000 subscribers. Hit the subscribe button. And yes, leave us some comments about how you feel about this debate. Are you in the Gary V follow your passion camp? Or do you find yourself more of find something you're good at, become great at it, and do that? Or are you kind of like me, where I don't necessarily think there's as big of contradiction there as it may seem, because I feel like I am following my passion, but it's something that I became passionate about because I put in so much work into it that I became great at it, and I take a lot of meaning from doing it. So I think it doesn't necessarily have to contradict is what I'm getting at. So leave that in the comments below about how you feel about that topic. One of the other things I want to discuss, Murray, and why I thought this was interesting, because right now I am going on, officially year and a half, unofficially 2 years of this side hustle. And I've had moments of success and moments of failure, but the problem is for the success I've had, I have not been able to scale it. And I'm starting to get frustrated. Obviously the pandemic put a dent in a lot of people's plans. So that has to come into play. But I'm getting really frustrated. I'm starting to hit that wall where I'm asking myself, is this something I'm really passionate about? Because I have other options of things that I can do, things that I'm extremely good at, that I can make a lot more money with in a lot shorter period of time. But I look at the long game, and I'll be honest with you guys. So one hand, as an attorney, I can start a private practice right now, and I can make really good money, especially in the town that I live in. By doing that, here's the problem. I'll have to do criminal defense. I'm a career prosecutor, and I have this dream of starting and running a company that trains law enforcement. I can't do both. Once I become a criminal defense attorney, I'm now the enemy. So it's been a struggle for me to determine, what do I want to do? Am I ready to make the move into private practice, or do I continue the path in the law enforcement training? I have decided, after a long thought, that I am going to continue the path on the law enforcement training, because I do love it. I am passionate about it. And I think long term, it's something that would give me more fulfillment than if I made quick money right now. I still would be getting right back into the career that I left as a prosecutor, where I would be looking at burnout and going to court and doing all these things. So it's frustrating. I'll be honest, I've had some nights recently where it's hard to sleep because I can't stop thinking about it. But this stuff that we're talking about tonight comes into play. What is my passion? Am I following it? Or should I just find the thing that I'm good at and follow that? Still on the fence, but I've kind of made my decision, and I want to keep pushing towards the side hustle that I'm running right now with the law enforcement training business. So have you had, Murray, some of these you're further along than me. Has this come into your mind and affected your decision making at all?
Hitting those walls, absolutely. Like, I'm still hitting walls, and just each time though you do make more progress, it seems like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And so there's a couple of different sayings I've heard, and the first one is, there's decades when nothing happens, and then there's days where decades happen. And it's just like, yeah, that's so true. It seems like you're constantly fighting and just putting in all the hours, nothing happens. But then there's a day or a week where just all of a sudden everything goes into motion, and it's clicking, and you just make so much progress. So you got to roll with the punches. It comes and goes. But that's why we say on here all the time, do something you're passionate about, which I know that's what we're kind of questioning right now. But it's, make sure that maybe passion is the wrong word. Make sure you're driven enough by what you're doing that you're going to be able to overcome those tough days, because there's going to be plenty of tough days.
Yes.
And then I think specifically maybe to help you with the decision, and I know people who have already quote unquote made it say this a lot, so it's a lot easier for them to say. But when you come up against these life decisions, they always say, make the decision as if it didn't depend on money. Take money off the table. What would your decision be? And that's really what you should go to.
Right. So that's the follow your passion.
Yeah, exactly.
Theory, which I get, and that's what I'm doing. And that's what I'm going to try to do. And I'm going to keep doing it, because I think, I go back, we put out a clip from one of my favorite episodes, the one that we did with Azure O'Neill. And she said something that I have not forgotten, and it's been months, but she talked about this. She's like, when I have to make a major decision, I look back, or I look on that decision as if I look back on this 20 years from now, would I regret having not taken the chance of doing this? Even if it fails, even if I fall flat on my face, I don't want to have to live with that regret. And that's kind of where I'm at. There's no urgency. I have a good day job, so there's no urgency to make this happen right now. It may take 2, 3, 4, 5 years for me to scale up this business to the point where I could actually do it as a career. but I'm willing to take that chance because I feel like if I switched and I took the easy money right now, I probably would look back maybe with regret on what could have, man, I had this great idea, but I didn't see it through. So I'm going to try to see it through. Maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't. Tons of more work to do, by the way. So much more work to do.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Have you had this? I mean, have you thought about doing that? Like with your business, have you had days where you said, you know what, I'm getting close to throwing in the towel here. I'm going to have to figure out something else to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't say completely thrown in the towel. I've questioned how hard do I have to pivot? Like, am I even headed in the right direction, or is this train halfway off the tracks and I need to jump on a whole nother train? But whatever I was doing, I knew that I was going to keep moving forward, and it was going to be still somewhat in the same arena. I just wasn't sure, did I have the right focus at the time? And I did pivot once already pretty hard, and it's been working out in my favor. And I did start leaning a little more towards that passion side, just because that's why it was easy for me to pivot, was because I was like, okay, well, this isn't really why I got into it. Like, I got into the concept of developing things, but this isn't what I wanted to develop necessarily. So that's when I started focusing on what am I passionate about outside of just developing.
Right.
So yes, I mean, you're not alone in that. I'm sure we're not alone. Everyone goes through it. And a lot of times that's why we're doing this now, because we're feeling the pains here real time. So many people look back on it, and, for anyone who's trying out there right now, you're not alone. That's one of the best things we could say. Like, even when you're not listening to this and you're sitting in front of your computer by yourself and you're like, oh yeah, Murray, Eric, they're feeling it too. Like, we're all in this together. We'll just keep pushing and supporting one another and networking, reach out. We're here.
Yeah. And I thought that's why I figured this would be a great topic to start our 2021 Erik and Murray show type discussion over, because we have for this entire time, and we're almost a year in, it's always been about follow your passion, follow your passion. And when I was exposed to this information, it really made me think about what we're saying on here, because I want to be, and we've said this from day one, that we're going to put ourselves out there. People are going to see our story. We're going to be open-minded to things. And it really resonates with me. It really does. And I guess to wrap this conversation up, if I would have to pick a camp that I'm in, I really think that I am more in this camp now of find something you're good at, become great at it, and it'll create a passion for you. And I don't think that necessarily contradicts, like I said earlier, with the idea of follow your passion. But I think I'm more in this camp than I am with just, if you love baseball, so go start doing a podcast about breaking down baseball stats and teams and talking about stuff like that. I think a little more towards this camp now. Where are you at in this debate? Which one do you find yourself gravitating towards?
So I still gravitate just slightly more towards the passion side, but I'm still, 80% with you. Like, I think there's a lot of overlap between what you and I are saying. But maybe it's because I've gotten lucky and got to do some of those things that I'm passionate about, at least just as like strong hobbies, or I got to spend enough time in there where I'm like, okay, I now want to try something new. I know that I can make this passion work to a certain extent that I'd probably be happy with. So I'm leaning towards that, but I would say only enough to keep me going during the hard times. Like, right. I'm still there that you have to make sense out of what you're going after. How do you make the passion work for you?
Great. Well, I don't know. I don't know if we really solved anything, or it's a great debate.
We left the audience with more questions than anything.
It's a great debate. It's something to think about. And I thought we had to talk about it because we're always on here saying, follow your passion, follow your passion. I wanted to bring it up. Something to think about, something to consider. And we'll probably come back to this topic. I feel like this is something that's not going to go away for sure. But now, because we're going to have a quick episode tonight, let's pivot, as you say, into our next area, which is something we always do and we're always going to do. Even if nobody watches, we're going to go back and look at this 5 years from now just to see what it was like back here in 2021. Little routine that we call wins and losses and business updates. So why don't you go first? Tell us where you're at and what's been going on.
Yeah, so a big win for me is I now have my second application out there. It's a dog training service. It's live. We're doing beta testing with actual customers now. It's just part of the process. You don't want to launch it to the world because the subject matter experts are going to find things. And even though I've been working with them along the way, it's actually the full release version is out there for them to really try it. So they're my
Nice.
customer. They have customers tied into that. So I'm working the process, but overall, I'm super excited about it. The dog training business, the reason I got into it is, to help save them. There's a lot to be said about there's so many dogs that are just unfortunately, you know, put down or just given
Yeah.
to shelters because they think it's a bad dog and it's not. The dog just hasn't been properly trained, and that falls on the human. It's the responsibility of the human. So if you can hold them accountable, then there's something to be said to that, to where you have better trained dogs, people are sticking with them and happy with them. So it's just there's a whole methodology that comes with that, and I think there's a lot of trainers out there that have figured it out. I'm just helping them, provide them a tool that relays their message and get their training across. So it's been a long time coming. We've been trialing it and getting ready, but it's now officially out there for beta trialing and testing. So if anyone's interested, send me an email, get a hold of me. We've got Facebook, we've got the website, but otherwise that's a big win for me. I think one of the, I wouldn't call it a loss, but one of the setbacks is one of the primary people who are testing it just had some stuff come up to where, it's taken them a little bit longer to test, but I do have other people testing. But it's just one of those things where you don't see it coming, and then it's like, all right, there's this temporary delay, but it'll still come back around. Overall, though, really excited about it, and just keep showing up each day and making progress.
Yeah. Any learning lessons in the process? Things you had to learn the hard way, or has it been going smooth so far? Since the last time we talked, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a ton of learning lessons. But being put on the spot here, I'd say if you have warm contacts, the development process can take some time. Is maybe check in with them a little bit more. I was checking in with some of the primary ones, but there were some secondary ones that were either backups or just ones that were kind of interested. And so I wasn't checking in with them or providing them as frequent updates. And it feels like they've kind of turned into cold contacts now. Like I'm having a hard time to get them back interested, back involved, where for a while I had them on the line. So maybe it's just create your entire, warm contact CRM and just send it to everybody, because you never know who might bail or who you might need to pull in and get involved as a backup.
Nice. We're going to do an episode about CRMs because you know a lot about those and I don't know anything about them. So you're going to be the subject matter expert in that episode. Maybe that'll
I
be
don't
the
know if I
next
call
one.
myself an expert, but I know something.
Compared to me, you are. Compared to me, you absolutely are.
Cool. What about you?
Okay, so I guess we'll start with a win. We are in mid-January right now. Mid-December, I had a very big client for my law enforcement training, had a really big class. It paid really well. It went extraordinarily well. I got a ton of good feedback, and they wanted to bring me back for more stuff. So that was a huge win for me because it showed me that there are clients out there that want my product. They're willing to pay for it at the price that I need to be paid for. And it showed me that if I can scale this, what I did with this client, if I can scale it even to a moderate level, I can do this for a career. Okay, that leads to the loss, and the learning lesson is I haven't figured out how to scale that because I haven't had anything since then. And the learning lesson is this kind of happened a couple weeks before Christmas, and I decided that after I did this class, I was going to shut things down, take a little Christmas break, pick things up again after the first of the year. That was a huge mistake. All the momentum I had is gone. I have nothing moving forward. I've lost a lot of time. I've lost a lot of ground. And just mentally, I feel like I'm way behind trying to just get back to where I was at that moment. So looking back, I should have used that momentum to carry it on and start ramping things up. Now, I learned the lesson, and I'm going to start ramping things up, and I won't let that happen again. So that's my learning lesson, is just because you get a win, take some time to enjoy it, but maybe not take as much time as I did. Again, I was going, and the reason why it took so long, I was going through this process in my mind of, is this really what I want to do? There's some other options out there, and I needed some time to figure it out. And that's, I guess, the excuse that I'll make for myself. And I have figured that out, and I'm ramping things up now. And so we'll see where it goes. But yeah, the win was I landed a big client, and the pay was good, and everything was great. And the loss was, it's been crickets since then, and I feel like I've lost my momentum, and now I got to start all over again just to get back to where I was there. And I'm trying to figure out, and a lot of my stress is based around, how do I scale this up? And I think I just need to take a step back, because I don't need this to be a career right now. I just need small steps, keep moving the ball down the field, and getting back to the basics. So my plan going forward is I've been neglecting my YouTube channel. I'm going to be getting a new camera, top of the line, 4K, and I'm going to start getting more content, more videos out. I'm actually going to do a podcast for law enforcement officers. So I got a bunch of stuff in the works. I just got to get moving and get it done. So that's pretty much my update in a nutshell. Still broke. Haven't made any money.
Nice. Before we landed on this topic, we almost talked about tools. And I think you're at a spot where, we won't talk about it here, but offline, we'll talk about some of the tools that I think could help you market and scale some of the things I've been looking at. Again, I'm not an expert by any means. I've done my research, and I'm starting to use those more and more now. So we'll talk about that. And then maybe our next, Murray and Erik show, as you called it earlier, will be about what have we used to help us market and scale, because that's the background that neither of us had. Going into this, neither of us had that. So we've spent a lot of time already trying to figure out what works for us and what doesn't. Right. But I don't think either of us have clearly figured it out yet.
Right. And that's one of the things that we're going to try to do in this second season of the podcast is we're still going to do what we like to do, which is we're going to do the Erik and Murrays. We're going to bring people on, entrepreneurs, to tell their story. But we're going to try to start bringing people on here that, let's say someone's an expert in CRM. We want them to come on the show and teach us and teach you about why it's important, how to use it. Bring someone in on mail list. That's my tool that I've been just starting to get into, is I'm using MailChimp to start creating my email list, which I realize I have to have. So that's my big thing. But we're going to try to start bringing in guests like that. So this is going to be a good season. When we come back and look at this episode, I hope my prophecy comes true, that this is going to be a good season where we're going to bring in a lot of these people. We're off to a good start. I think we had an excellent guest last week, and we're coming up on our time here. So to wrap this up, hit the subscribe button. Leave us some comments. We got another season coming up here. We're getting close. March will be our official 1-year anniversary. Next episode after this one, it's going to be a guest different than most guests we had. She's going to be extremely dynamic, and she's got a hell of a story to tell. Make sure you watch the next episode. So if you're seeing this sometime in the past, skip forward, go watch our next episode. You're really going to want to see it. Very dynamic. It's going to be high energy, and I think you're going to learn a lot from it.
Yeah, it's going to be good. And we did mention some other good speakers on this episode. So we are going to leave the links to those videos. Anything that we mentioned, we'll leave down there so you can go check it out for yourself and hear what, some of the real experts have to say. Yes. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. Good point. We're going to leave links to the guy that you mentioned. What was it? Simon
Sinek.
Simon Sinek. And then I'll leave a link to the video that Scott Galloway did. If you're watching this and you're an entrepreneur, you've probably already seen this, but we'll leave a link down there just to make sure. So, all right, Murray, that's about a half an hour. I think we hit this topic as well as we wanted to. Any final thoughts?
Nope. I mean, it's kind of
nope.
I mean, it's an open-ended conversation. I can almost guarantee you we're going to come back and talk about it on another episode. So for now, we'll just,
sure.
We'll leave it there, and be curious to see if we still feel the same way in 6 months or so.
Yeah, for sure. This is something that came up that we wanted to talk about. Follow your passion versus find something you're good at and make that your passion, become passionate about it. This is our just initial thoughts with no prep, just two guys talking that frankly don't know what the hell they're talking about. So if you've been watching this podcast this long, boy, It's no wonder your business is doing as well as mine. We're trying.
We are.
All right, so
We're
that's it. That's the dumpster fire project, Murray. So with that,
we're going to turn the dumpster fire into a golden nugget one of these days.
One of these days, it'll be a golden dumpster. One of these days, today is not that day. Till next time, my friends. Hang on, everybody. Don't shut us off just yet. If you're enjoying the podcast, please help us out and hit the subscribe button on your podcast app. Follow us, add us to your favorites, whatever. And also, don't forget to check out our brand new Facebook page, The Dumpster Fire Project. You can find us on there at Erik and Murray. That's at Erik and Murray. Till next time, never settle, never regret.